When you think about healthcare, what usually comes to mind? It's probably data, technology, treatments, right? But what if one of the most powerful tools we have for healing wasn't a device or a drug, but something way more personal? Today, we're going to dive into how your own story, your personal narrative, has the power to completely change the healthcare experience. To really get a grip on the impact of stories in medicine, we can't start with some big abstract theory. Nope, we have to start with a single, deeply personal story. And it all begins with this one object. So take a look at this. It's a World War II dog tag. It belonged to a man named 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Now, he wasn't some famous war hero, but he was a man who was always in control. He was an executive, a headhunter for doctors, and a father. By all accounts, he was just a brilliant, powerful personality. His daughter, Beth, wrote those words to describe how devastatingly fast lung cancer took him. I mean, can you imagine? That one painful experience completely changed how she saw hospitals for decades. It wasn't just a medical history anymore. It became this deeply human story of loss. And for 2 whole decades, that pain just stayed bottled up. But then something shifted. She actually went to nursing school and she started writing about her dad. And in that process, in telling the story, she found a way to heal. And this is where it gets really interesting. That personal journey sparked this huge idea. What if telling our stories wasn't just for therapy, but could be a fundamental part of how we actually practice healthcare itself? Okay, so that story, it really brings us to a huge challenge in medicine today, understanding the critical difference between healing and curing. I mean, let's be honest, our healthcare system it's incredible. We have electronic records, amazing scanners, devices that save lives. It's truly a technological marvel. But in that rush for better and better tech, it's so easy to lose sight of the fact that at the absolute center of it all is a person with a body, a mind, and a spirit. And that brings us to a really, really important distinction. See, curing is the technical part. It's the medical treatment of a disease. It's about fixing the biological problem. Healing, though, healing is a much bigger idea. It's about taking care of the whole person. And this quote, man, this just says it all. Think about it, right? Someone can have a disease that can't be cured, but they can still find a sense of peace and wholeness. They can be healed. And on the flip side, you could have a condition that gets medically cured, but if the whole experience left you feeling dismissed or broken, you might not be healed at all. Okay, so if healing is about the whole person, how do we even begin to access that? Well, the answer is through narrative. But what exactly does that word even mean here? A narrative is way bigger than just one single story. So think about it like this. Your narrative is like a giant web of your entire life's experiences. And each individual story, whether it's about an illness, a happy memory, a relationship, that's just one single strand in that much, much bigger web. Or, hey, here's another great way to picture it. The entire book, that's your narrative, your whole personal history. But each individual page inside, that's a story. Your narrative is what holds all those pages together and gives them meaning. It's the big picture. And look, the stakes for getting this right they're incredibly high. When we actually make space for someone's narrative in healthcare, what do we get? Empathy, connection, harmony. But when it's missing, when a patient is just a name on a chart, the result is almost always confusion, resentment, and a total breakdown. All right, so this all sounds great, in theory, but how do you actually do it? How does this work in the real world? Let's get practical and look at some actual tools that everyone involved in this journey can use. Well, it really comes down to 3 key roles in any healthcare journey. You've got the patient right at the center, supported by the caregiver, and working with the provider. So let's break down some specific strategies for each of them, all designed to weave their stories together. So let's start where we should always start, with the patient. The whole idea here is to empower patients to see and use the incredible power of their own story. And here are a few simple things, but they're incredibly powerful. Patients are encouraged to think about who they are outside of their diagnosis. For example, just taking a moment to identify what's truly important in your life, your family, a hobby, your work, that can ground you. It's also about changing your perspective, asking what opportunities might be hidden in your challenges. You could even make a quick audio or video recording of your story to share. Okay, now let's talk about the caregiver. This role, wow, it can be so tough, so isolating, but narrative can be a total lifeline for them too. So for caregivers,
It's about things like sharing stories to feel closer to the person they're caring for. A really key strategy is reframing their own story, not seeing themselves just as a caregiver, but maybe finding a new sense of purpose in this tough new role. And sometimes, when words just don't work, something as simple as a picture or a video can say everything that needs to be said. And finally, let's look at the providers, the doctors, the nurses, the therapists. For them, this means their role kind of shifts from just being an expert who tells you what to do to being a listener and a true partner in the patient's story.
And look, we're not talking about adding hours to their day. It could be something as simple as sharing a quick personal story to build a bridge, or even just taking a moment to remember why they got into healthcare in the first place. But most importantly, it's about learning to listen between the lines, to catch all those vital human clues that no machine could ever pick up.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. Your unique personal story. It doesn't matter if you're the patient, the caregiver, or the provider. It has real, actual power to improve care and help people heal.
And that really brings us full circle, back to this one powerful question. It's a question for anyone out there who's facing a health challenge or helping somebody who is. It completely reframes the journey from just being about hardship to being about potential. It reminds us all that inside every story, no matter how tough it is, there's the power to find meaning, connection, and ultimately, a path toward healing.